everyone, welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I'm Naila Shujra, and these are the headlines. The United States has announced sanctions on Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government for human rights violations. It targeted 8 prisons run by al-Assad's intelligence apparatus and 5 senior officials who oversee them. The Treasury Department also imposed sanctions on Syrian armed group Ahrar al-Shaqira for abuses against civilians. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed missiles and drones launched by the Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. The coalition said Yemeni rebels launched 2 ballistic missiles and 1 explosive-laden drone towards Jazan city. The development comes just a day after the coalition intercepted 4 Houthi missiles and 2 drones. China says provocative U.S. actions in the South China Sea are disturbing the peace and stability of the region. This comes after the United States Navy destroyer Benfold sailed through the Taiwan Straits on Wednesday. The Chinese People's Liberation Army said it tracked and monitored the movements of the U.S. warship. Brazil has reported more than 1,300 COVID-19 deaths for a second day in a row. The Latin American state also logged more than 48,000 new cases in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, cases and deaths in Pakistan are rising as nearly 4,500 tested positive and 76 lost their lives. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.1 million lives and infected over 195 million people. On day 6 of the Tokyo Olympics, China lead the medal standings with 14 goals after winning the women's 200-meter butterfly. Japan and the United States are tied at 13 gold medals each, while the United States lead overall tally with 37 and China trail with 29. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. The United States has announced sanctions on Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government for human rights violations. It also targeted 8 prisons run by al-Assad's intelligence apparatus and 5 senior officials who oversee them. The Treasury Department said al-Assad's regime has tortured at least 14,000 prisoners to death. In a statement, it said more than 130,000 people reportedly remain missing or arbitrarily detained. The Treasury also imposed sanctions on the Syrian armed group Ahrar al-Shaqira for abuses against civilians. In a separate statement, the Treasury announced curbs on a Turkey-based al-Qaeda financial facilitator. The department also said that it targeted 1 Syria-based terrorist fundraiser and recruiter. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the curbs showed the U.S. commitment to human rights and accountability for abuse against Syrians. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed missiles and drones launched by Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. The coalition said Yemeni rebels launched 2 ballistic missiles and 1 explosive-laden drone towards Jazan city. The coalition said it is taking operational measures to protect civilians from terrorist attacks. The development comes just a day after the coalition intercepted 4 Houthi missiles and 2 drones. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy for Yemen Tim Lenderking met with his UN counterpart Moin Shirim. Lenderking voiced concerns about Houthis' Marib offensive in Yemen. In a tweet, Washington said both underscored the need for a nationwide ceasefire and renewed political talks. China says provocative U.S. actions in the South China Sea are disturbing the peace and stability of the region. This comes after U.S. Navy destroyer Benfold sailed through the Taiwan Straits on Wednesday. The Chinese People's Liberation Army said that it tracked and monitored the movements of the United States warship. Spokesperson Shi Yi said the Eastern Theater Command is ready to respond to any threats. Earlier, China's new ambassador to the United States said the bilateral ties are at a critical juncture. Qin Gang urged against shutting down the door to better ties between the 2 states. The Taliban claimed to have killed an Afghan army colonel in an attack in Kabul's Bahrami district. In a tweet, the group spokesperson said they targeted Colonel Asif in the Gul-e-Badi area. The spokesperson said the group also killed 9 Afghan security personnel in Nangarhar. He said the Taliban destroyed a military checkpoint in the Khogiani district of the province. Meanwhile, the Afghan army says it has killed 37 fighters, including 2 senior commanders. It said 35 Taliban have also been injured in the airstrike along the Jawzan-Saripul highway. Prime Minister Imran Khan has reiterated that Pakistan wants a peaceful Afghanistan to gain access to Central Asia. He was speaking to a delegation of the Pak-Afghan Youth Forum in Islamabad. Khan said Pakistan tried very hard to get the Taliban to talk to the United States and the Afghan government. He said the country has already signed an agreement with Uzbekistan for a railway line that will reach Pakistan via Afghanistan. Khan said Islamabad's future economic strategy depends on peace in Kabul. He also said Pakistan wants peace with India, but the extremist RSS ideology is the main hurdle to peace. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi will meet the top Bahraini leadership today in Manama. Qureshi is on a 2-day official visit to the country. The top Pakistani diplomat will also hold a meeting with his Bahraini counterpart today. Pakistan's Foreign Office says that ways to boost bilateral cooperation and matters of mutual interest will be discussed. He will also speak at a ceremony organized by the Pakistani business community in Bahrain. Qureshi will share Prime Minister Imran Khan's economic agenda and praise the contribution of expat Pakistanis. For more on this, we are joined by Minahil Ahmed, our correspondent, speaking to us from Islamabad. Now, Minahil, can you please share with us who Shah Mahmood Qureshi will be meeting today and what other activities are scheduled for the foreign minister?
Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi arrived in Bahrain yesterday for a 2-day official visit where he was welcomed by his Bahrain counterpart. He met with the Deputy Prime Minister of Bahrain as well as with the Foreign Minister of Bahrain, where the two discussed issues of mutual interest, bilateral cooperation, regional and international issues. The matter of Kashmir was brought up, and the atrocities committed by Indian forces in occupied Kashmir was highlighted by the Pakistani Foreign Minister. He also highlighted the efforts made by Pakistan to support a peaceful negotiation in Afghanistan and to help Afghanistan achieve peace and stability. Further, the Foreign Minister also addressed the Joint Ministerial Commission in Bahrain, where he did highlight Pakistan's focus from a geopolitical to a geo-economic phase, where he did invite Bahrain to come and invest in Pakistan and participate in projects such as the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The two leaders did agree that there needs to be a deepened cooperation in various fields such as investment, trade, and energy. Today, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi is expected to meet the Interior Minister of Bahrain as well as the Crown Prince and the King of Bahrain. In these meetings, regional issues are expected to be discussed: regional, international, bilateral issues of how to increase trade, people-to-people linkages, cultural exchanges, education, health, and various diverse fields there's tremendous there's tremendous opportunity to increase cooperation between the two countries, and this meeting is a significant meeting to see a new relationship and a stronger relationship develop between Bahrain and Pakistan.
Minahil, Pakistan's diplomats and the Prime Minister have been very busy lately. What were the objectives and focus of this visit?
Well, you see, there's a lot of regional issues going on following the withdrawal of the U.S. troops from Afghanistan. And as Prime Minister Imran Khan has repeatedly said to multiple international media outlets and to his counterparts of different countries, that Pakistan supports a peaceful resolution to the Afghan conflict. He has always reaffirmed its commitment to Afghanistan, and he has always stated that there is no military solution to Afghanistan. He's always highlighted how Pakistan was one of the top countries who was mostly affected by the war on terror and by the war that was happening in Afghanistan, and he is more than ever committed to resolve the Afghan crisis. So I believe that these meetings that are being taken place, be it the foreign minister visiting Bahrain, he earlier visited Azerbaijan, and the prime minister's visit to Saudi Arabia early in May, and all these bilateral meetings that are being held, it is for all the regional partners to come on the same page and to really facilitate the Afghan issue and to facilitate Afghanistan towards a peaceful and stable country. Pakistan is hosting millions of Afghan refugees, and Pakistan has always helped in developmental projects and medical projects in Afghanistan. And Prime Minister Imran Khan has said that Pakistan is really not in the condition to be hosting more Afghan refugees, and it is in Pakistan's favor, and it is in Pakistan's concern to facilitate the Afghan peace process, as we will benefit, as Pakistan will benefit from a peaceful and stable Afghanistan. So I believe these meetings that are being held following Dr. Moeed Yusuf's visit to the US, these meetings that are being held, it is to improve regional connectivity, to build more trust, and to really help facilitate Afghanistan into this new phase, and following the US withdrawal. So these meetings are of key importance for this region.
Nahil Ahmed, thank you so much for giving us the update on this progress. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Brazil has reported more than 1,300 COVID-19 deaths for a second day in a row. The Latin American state logged more than 48,000 new cases in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4.1 million lives and infected over 195 million people. More in this report. The coronavirus pandemic continues to inflict a devastating toll. As the Delta variant sweeps through the world, the Pan American Health Organization said Argentina, Colombia, Cuba, Ecuador, and Paraguay have some of the world's highest weekly death rates. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with World Health Organization's chief and reiterated support for the probe into the origins of the virus. In New York, authorities say starting from Labor Day, vaccination will be mandatory for state employees.
So in New York and our state hospitals, all patient-facing healthcare workers must get vaccinated. There will be no testing option for patient-facing healthcare workers. That is a point of contact that could be a serious spreading event. And we want to make sure that those healthcare workers are vaccinated.
Protesters placed body bags outside Facebook's headquarters to call it out for allowing the spread of misinformation about the vaccines. Meanwhile, in the Turkish city of Diyarbakir, authorities beg citizens to get vaccinated as the new wave in the east keeps surging. Over in the United Kingdom, opposition parties say opening borders for the United States and Europe without quarantine can import new COVID variants. France says that it will implement the use of passes to access public places by the 9th of August if the Constitutional Council approves the contested bill.
The Constitutional Council has stated that it will issue its decision on the Health Pass bill on August 5th. The law will then be enacted afterwards, and we plan to have it take effect on August 9th. It's on this date that the extension of the Health Pass would take effect, and let me remind you, there will be a period of adjustment and tolerance of education and help for those concerned.
Cuba says Iran is set to start producing the island's homegrown COVID-19 vaccines on an industrial scale. The Yemeni government has put health facilities and workers on high alert as the country braces for a third wave. A new study, not yet peer-reviewed, shows that the efficacy of Pfizer's vaccine fell from 96% to 84% over 6 months. Meanwhile, Tokyo Olympics organizers have reported 24 new cases among participants, including 3 athletes. In Pakistan, COVID-19 has claimed 76 lives overnight, the country's highest number since June 10th. The health ministry says the death toll has reached 23,209. The ministry has registered nearly 4,500 infections in the past 24 hours. The caseload has exceeded 1,020,000. Meanwhile, more than 937,000 people have recovered. The ministry says there are over 59,000 active cases, of which more than 3,000 are in critical condition. Meanwhile, over 27.8 million vaccine doses have been administered so far across the country. Russia says it is concerned over what it called the activity of U.S. Special Services on its territory. A Kremlin spokesperson says it has been evident for a long time and is still going on. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov reiterated that Moscow is not interfering in the electoral process in America or in any other country. Peskov said numerous investigations in the United States confirmed that Russia never interfered in the polls. He was responding to President Joe Biden's statement that Russia is trying to meddle in the upcoming 2022 interim U.S. elections. Azerbaijan says Armenian forces have violated the ceasefire deal and launched attacks in the Kalabajar region. The Azeri Defense Ministry said Armenian forces fired rifles and hand grenades at positions in Zilik village. In a statement, Baku says its armed forces retaliated and suppressed the shelling. The U.S. State Department has condemned the recent clashes between Armenia and Azerbaijan. State Department spokesperson Ned Price urged the countries to uphold their ceasefire commitments. Bangladesh has evacuated 10,000 Rohingya from refugee camps on the Myanmar border. Officials said they took the step after monsoon landslides and flash floods killed at least 14 people. Officials said the refugees were relocated from hilly slopes around the Balukhali camp in Cox's Bazar. About 7,000 local people outside the camps have also been moved to safety. Over 850,000 Rohingya refugees are packed into 34 camps in the Cox's Bazar. The area has received over 27 centimeters of rain since Monday. The UN Refugee Agency said 2,500 shelters housing 12,000 Rohingya have been affected by the floods. Bangladesh's meteorological department has predicted more torrential rains. In India, at least 14 people have been killed in flash floods triggered by heavy rains in northern Himachal Pradesh state. Officials said 10 people were killed in Lahul and Spiti, while 4 were killed after being washed away in Parvati River. They said at least 4 people are still presumed missing. Floods caused by cloudburst in the Kulu district of the state left a trail of destruction. The Met Department has also issued a red alert for the northern state of Uttarakhand and an orange alert for Delhi. More than 160 people have died in India during the past week as a result of heavy rains. In Brazil, a cold wave in the southern state of Rio Grande do Sul has brought snow and cold rains to at least 13 cities. There were snowfalls in cities including São Francisco de Paula, Gramado, Carlos Barboa, and Bagui. The unusual weather phenomenon is related to a large polar air mass that entered during the last few hours. Tourists and locals used the opportunity to take pictures and play in the São Francisco de Paula. The temperature there is expected to reach 2 degrees centigrade. Paraguay has seized more than 3,400 kilos of cocaine near the capital city of Asunción. Police have called it the country's biggest ever drug bust. Officials say the cocaine was being stashed in a load of sugar for international shipment. National Police Commander Luis Arias told reporters that the illegal stimulant was found in a warehouse. The bust exceeded the previous record in Paraguay when 2,900 kilograms of cocaine were seized in October 2020. That cargo had been hidden in bags of charcoal. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Asian shares have managed a modest bounce after the U.S. Federal Reserve signaled that economic recovery was on track. However, the mood is fragile as investors waited to see if Beijing could stem the recent rout in Chinese shares. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong led the gains, jumping nearly 2.5%. Tokyo's Nikkei 225 and the Kospi in South Korea advanced marginally. The Shanghai Composite Index rebounded fractionally after 3 days of declines. Sydney's ASX 200 also added slightly. Now moving on day 6 of the Tokyo Olympics, China led the medal standings with 14 golds after winning the women's 200-meter butterfly. Japan and the United States are tied at 13 gold medals each, while the United States led the overall tally with 37 and China trailed with 29. Today, medals are up for grabs in gymnastics, shooting, and canoeing. Fencing, judo, and swimming are also being rewarded on day 6. Earlier, Caleb Dressel dominated the men's 100-meter freestyle swimming, setting up an Olympic record. In the inaugural men's 800-meter freestyle, Team USA's Robert Fink came from behind to clinch the gold. China won the women's 800 meters freestyle relay, where all medalists beat the world record. Meanwhile, America's superwoman gymnast Simone Biles, who was almost destined for gold, withdrew. Her exit has raised concerns over the mental health challenges faced by athletes under the pressure of performing at the Olympics. It's now time to take a look at the weather updates from around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.